Good
Hi.
morning, Steph. How are you?
I am so good because you know why?
Why?
Because we are going on a very big trip in less than a week
Oh, that's right. You're not with us next week.
or 2 weeks. That's right.
That's where are you going?
We're going to Croatia and Greece for 2 weeks. Going with my,
Wow, it's gonna.
but
Yeah, you're doing the whole I'm completely checking out thing.
right. That's right. For the first time in my whole adult life, I think. But like as we're getting ready for the trip, I'm like every day I'm kind of going, oh my gosh, I forgot I don't have this because I haven't traveled overseas to Europe for a while and whatever. So thankfully there's Amazon that'll deliver overnight. But I also, what I did this week is I last night I was kind of laying in bed, I couldn't sleep, and I went to the Amazon site and I ordered a chicken and an egg. So we'll see what happens.
Which one comes first? Yeah, it's
Mhm.
very. Well, let us know. You're answering the egg. I didn't know you could buy just one egg on Amazon though.
Yeah, well, egg prices being what they are.
Fair enough. I'm looking forward to today's conversation. We're talking about finances, and we're going to lean in because our guest has written about business finances in the context of marriage, and I'm really looking forward to kind of diving in deep. I talk about my wife a lot, and just this morning, she said she was upset with me. She said you haven't listened to a word I've been saying. And I thought to myself, that's a really weird way to start a conversation. So I'm looking not only for financial advice, but also potentially some marital advice from our guest today. Nothing, Steph. You're giving me nothing. You gave me
I gave
nothing.
you like a great dad joke. Come on.
Fair enough. The chicken and the egg. You're right. Um, what financial metrics actually drive your decisions? Shocking fact, according to the US Small Business Administration, 82% of small business failures are caused by cash flow problems, yet most founders focus on revenue metrics instead of cash flow timing. When Patrick McKenzie, the founder of Calazumias, discovered that his team was making decisions based on vanity metrics instead of accountable data, he implemented a simple 3-metric dashboard that improved decision-making speed by 40%. That insight reveals that most founders are flying blind when it comes to numbers and what actually matters to survival and growth. Today on How to Founder, we'll be talking about defining financial management and also, hopefully, how to include your spouse in on those decisions. I'm your host. With me today is Stephanie, and today we have Dr. Travis Parry, the #1 best-selling author of Achieving Balance and Marry and Grow Rich. Oh, I misread that. I thought we were going to talk about Marry Rich. He's sought after industry speaker, the host of Balanced Growth Show, and the founder of Make Time Institute. However, his greatest accomplishment is his marriage to his bride of 22 years and their 8 children. Dr. Travis, thank you so much for joining us, and I apologize for my bad dad joke. This is how I welcome every guest, by the way. So there's nothing different.
I love it. Yeah, I'm just waiting to hear. I want to know what comes first, the chicken or the egg. So I'm really
We'll
excited.
find out.
I'm really
It's on
excited.
Prime, so it should find out by the end of the
2-day
day.
shipping. You might get it. No, thanks for
That's right.
having me. This is so good. So good to talk about business and money and marriage. We tend to silo these 3 things, but I think we can really have a great conversation about how these can be a great combination.
All right, well, let me kind of kick it off just with a very generic question. A lot of founders make financial decisions without the right data. So let's talk a little bit about what is the right data and why are founders making decisions without it?
Yeah, such a great question. I think business owners, founders, Those that start the business, right? They're the entrepreneur types. They're the go-getters. They're the ones who have the bright idea, want to bring it to the world. And they've probably, the majority of them are not, that they're bringing it up by the bootstraps, right? They're bootstrapping it. They're getting started. They're moving forward. So I think they're used to having the odds stacked against them from the beginning, right? Look at all the great, founders of our time. Amazon, where Stephanie's going to get her chicken or egg from, that started in a garage somewhere, right? We can look at all of like so many other examples of where people started, and they start really against the odds. So I think that founders are used to disregarding metrics, disregarding boundaries, forms, because of their nature and maybe some of the things that they've learned. However, when any business gets to a certain point, you can't deny those things. You do need to look at them. You need to know, how can you scale and grow? And in my book, Marry and Grow Rich, I talk about the team at home, your spouse and your family, and the team at work. If your team is not on the same page, even at work financially, then things can get really haywire. So I absolutely agree with what you're talking about there. If you don't follow, and you don't track your metrics, how do you know where you're going? How do you know which way is the right, correct direction? How do you make decisions?
So, Steph, Travis just called founders delusional. Do you agree?
Well, we knew that already. Yeah. So there's so many layers here, right? That I'd love to sort of unpack a little bit, because, I do a lot of valuation and business financial metrics as part of that process. And for the businesses that we are acquiring, I'm, when I get into the financials, nobody wants to talk about them. Founders don't like to look at them. They get really freaked out about them. So that's one layer. And then what you're talking about is the layer at the personal level too, and that it can't be ignored. And it can't be ignored for several different reasons. One of them, obviously, is cash flow management. And when we're early in our startup, and when we're in a different phase of our business, what do we need from a personal perspective? But I also think there's this sort of like non-financial layer to this as well, because when we are, it would be very hard for me to be in relationship with somebody who, was a union worker or didn't understand the entrepreneurial environment, because this comes with a lot of like, instability and all sorts of nuance. And so there's this whole other like people layer of finances that I think really need to be addressed in a relationship, whether you're married or you're in partnership with somebody. So I'd love for you to unpack that a little bit. Like, what are all these kind of layers of financials that, I think if all we said was, in your business, you need to have good financial metrics and reporting, I think most people would be like, yeah, okay, got that.
Yeah.
Episode's
But
over.
this is like a whole, yeah, we're done. This is like a whole other interesting conversation, because there are lots of tentacles.
So thank you for that. First off, you're exactly right. This is absolutely a personal level. We have to start at the psychological. I did a master's degree in psychology for the main reason to figure out how does stress and money, how are these related for business owners? One of the main reasons, which I talk about in my first book, Achieving Balance, is because my father passed away of a stress-induced heart attack at age 49, 2 weeks shy of his 50th birthday. I was 25, and it greatly impacted me, my family, and the rest of my life. So I really dove into trying to understand at a psychological level, what does money do? It's the most stressful thing. People don't want to talk about it. It's the most taboo topic in America. We can talk about everything else on the news. We can talk about sex. We can talk about things that are out of bounds, but don't talk about money. And oftentimes, money is a topic that we can't even talk about at work, where we're earning our money. One of my very first jobs, sorry, you can't talk to each other about what you earn. Why? Why not? And we're going to do it anyway, right? Because that's how humans are. How much are you earning? What are you doing? And that's how our brains think. But if you look at the psychological level, we have to also understand that we learn about money from a very young age from our own parents. And that's the majority of where when I work with couples, I like to figure out, well, tell me about your parents. What have they experienced? What kind of, financial managers were your parents? Not just were they spenders or savers. Oh, that's a good indicator, Dave Ramsey. Okay. But he focuses way too much on action. I like to focus on the psychological relationship with money, meaning, and there's behavioral relationship, but there's also that thought process. What do you think about money? How do you feel about money? So Stephanie, there may be founders out there who, quite honestly, they have a very toxic relationship with money from the beginning. And they're out there building a business because they want to help people. They don't want to look at the numbers. They don't want to think about it because it stresses them out. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah, if they don't have a great psychological relationship with money and numbers, and there's really 4 types. I'll go into these, and if you guys want to stop me and ask, fantastic. But really, the first type is people hate money. There's some people that literally think that money is evil. And that is typically a negative perspective of money because it comes from a lot of times misunderstanding of their own religious beliefs. Okay, I unpack it in the book. We talk about like that. Some people like to blame Christianity. That's the problem because Christ said that, money's evil. And he never did. He said the love of money or prioritizing money over God is the thing that's wrong. And so we need to really understand what does that actually mean? But if you hate money or if you think it's evil, you're going to react in ways that are very different than someone that has a healthy relationship. Then the other 2 that we tend to find is a money worship. So in this money worship, these are people who it doesn't matter how much they make. It doesn't. There is no ceiling, and they constantly want to earn more money because they feel like money will solve their problems. All right. Some of these people tend to come from really low income backgrounds because they've seen that money has been a problem. But most of the research shows that by the time you reach a 6-figure salary-ish, like most of the time, more money doesn't actually equal more happiness or even peace in your life. It actually can bring more issues, okay? Which tends to bring me to the next one, and the third one that is really kind of a negative relationship with money. It has more to do with like this money. What is it called? It's where your money is your worth, right? Your net worth is your self-worth. Okay. So that's what we'll call it for right now. And the reason being is they can't ever get enough either, but for a different reason. For the reason being that these tend to be the top 1% earners in the US or in the world, really. It's never enough for them because they are always in competition with themselves. If they're not earning more, they're not making more, then their self-worth attached to their net worth is not good enough. Okay. Again, these could be really wealthy individuals, but they have self-worth issues. They have psychological issues that they have not dealt with from probably a very young age of not feeling worthy to parents, to siblings, maybe in school or wherever else that they've dealt with. Okay, so those are the 3 that we typically see. More of a net worth is your self-worth, kind of a money worship attitude, and then even money is evil. The one that tends to show up that is good, is positive, is more of an abundance mentality with money, that money is a stewardship. Money is something that we've been given and we need to use wisely. And therefore, these people tend to have enough in the bank. They have their emergency funds set up. They're ready for a rainy day. Okay. We tend to call them money vigilant, meaning they're kind of looking out. They're ready for what might happen. They're the ones who are prepared. So now we get into the marriage part, and we'll stop right here. I'll let you guys ask questions and interject here, but you find someone who's, money is evil and money is a stewardship. And all of a sudden we've got a psychological problem waiting to happen. Does that make sense? And they get married. So, and you could marry money is evil and money worship. That might even be worse in some respects because it's totally opposite. And then money comes in and they fight over literally where it goes. The other day, just a quick example, I was helping my mom move into a new home, and I was out in the parking lot, and a couple was in the car literally yelling at each other. You spent this much money on your phone, and you spent and they were having an all-out argument in the car. It took everything that I had to just be like, okay, relax. I know this is what you do for a living. And you can go help them and figure out what's going on. But likely they just come from two psychologically differing behaviors, and they're not ever going to be able to get on the same page until they can recognize those differences.
There's so much here. And this is an area that I've done a whole bunch of work in over the last few years. So you're like, there's so much to unpack here. And I think that understanding and recognizing what your kind of money story is and the history that you've grown up with. But I think what's interesting is that there are these hybrids of those four that are kind of the combination of what you've externalized as well as what you've kind of grown up with. And I think for our generation, I'm 50 and Anthony's like 67, but our generation grew up under parents who experienced a depression and experienced, my parents were both from this mentality of like, we never have anything and we were in poverty and we hold on to everything that we have. So they don't come from this abundance mentality,
No.
but they also don't think money's evil, but they just are in fear, even when they've gotten to a place in their lives where they're very comfortable and they have lots of money, but they're just like, that never goes away. And then I'm the product of that, plus this external learning of abundance. And
Right.
I get into this other really weird place, right? So I don't think you can overemphasize how important it is for founders to understand their money bias.
Oh, I
And
love that. Yeah.
when you do, and you see it, I mean, then there's a whole pile of work to do, right? To start unlearning that stuff. But it's so ingrained and it's so much a part of the decisions that we make and how we interact with money and the reasons that we get into the financial positions that we're in, right?
So
Yeah, there's no question.
I want to tug on that a little bit. All right, doctor, help me self-diagnose. When
I want to.
I'm not asking you on purpose, Stephanie.
Yeah, I think Stephanie already has a diagnosis for you.
No, but help a founder. So help a founder diagnose when their relationship with money is unhealthy.
Yeah.
Especially when
Asking
it comes to
for a
business
friend.
money.
Yeah, asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend.
LMAO. All right. So, so I actually have an awesome quiz in my book. It's on page 102, and it's your own, what I call money relationship assessment. Now,
Amazing.
yeah. Imagine that, an assessment, by a PhD. That's what we love doing, right? So I will tell you.
Throw your link up to your book here now.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. And, I asked 10 questions. It's really simple, and it's a true and false. And in that true and false, I can actually just throw these questions on here right now. Okay. And I will show you, Anthony, how this works. It's really simple. It's really just answering this question. I'm going to throw some statements here, and you just write down true or write down false. Okay, Anthony, you can go with this.
We're gonna do. We're gonna do it live. I'm just gonna say true or false.
Yeah.
So
Just do that.
Totally transparent.
Totally transparent. I
And
love this.
It's okay if you cry.
Yeah, if you cry, we'll show you some ink blots. No, for real, like this is these are, don't overanalyze. Okay. Knee-jerk reaction.
I've never been accused of overanalyzing anything, so we're fine.
We're good. That's awesome. So I'm not going to tell you what's what. I'll tell you in a little bit later. But just answer this question. Don't ask me a question on it. Just assume whatever comes to your mind. Okay.
Okay.
First question or first statement: money will make me happy.
False.
Yes, true.
You say true?
I do.
Okay.
But that's coming from a place of having done a whole bunch of work.
All right. So here's the next one. Money would solve all my problems.
False.
Not all.
So true or false? And don't, no
False.
comments. Okay,
Okay,
false.
so-
All right. Things would be better if I had money.
True.
True.
Okay. My net worth is my self-worth.
False.
False.
I'm only as successful as the amount of money I earn.
False.
Only as successful.
Don't overanalyze,
No.
Anthony.
True.
Okay, exactly. If something is not the best, it's not worth buying.
False.
Money is evil or bad.
False.
False.
I don't deserve money.
True.
False.
Money doesn't grow on trees.
True.
True.
I don't flaunt details about my wealth.
Don't
True.
flaunt. True.
Money should be saved, not spent.
False.
False.
I need to always have an emergency savings.
True.
True.
Okay. So, according to this really scientific assessment, so what I found before I give you results, because I want you guys to sit there and squirm for just a second and like, what's going on? So what I found is typically we have a primary and a secondary. There are some times where these are a tie. But typically what happens is we have some form of these, what we call psychological money scripts. And I know, Stephanie, you've studied this a little bit. Okay. But these are just the average. And these are questions that, hopefully reflect that. And so what I look at is I look at where you said true. If you agree to these statements, and of course we could spend more time if we were working this one-on-one and we weren't on live podcast and streaming YouTube channel, we would do that. But I look at where you typically score, and Stephanie, you actually tied in 3 areas. Okay, you're a little bit of a hybrid. You have a little bit of
I'm
a
an
hybrid.
enigma.
Yeah,
I'm an enigma.
yeah. I've never seen this.
Yeah, that's what we call you behind your back, Stephanie. Enigma.
Yeah. So Stephanie, money worship, money avoidance, and money vigilance all scored the same. All right. So likely, and you brought this up and I wanted to mention this earlier, like you may know things about money consciously, but subconsciously at a psychological subconscious level, there are things that happened when you grew up that are related to money that likely are hanging out in your subconscious mind. Does that make sense? Okay. And I saw Anthony flinch on one and I really pushed him back hard. That's because he didn't want to say it on air for whatever reason that yes, I'm only as successful as the money that I earn. Right. And so like, that was the only
What was
true
the one that I
statement.
flinched? What was the one that I
That
flinched on?
one.
You
That
flinched.
one.
You flinched at I'm only as successful as the amount of money I earn. You're like, oh no, I don't want to say that.
Where I
but-
got stuck, honestly, where I got stuck is the definition of success.
Okay, all right.
That's where I got stuck.
That's totally fine. And again,
Okay.
I'm throwing these out here super fast so that you
Yeah.
won't overanalyze. So I was pushing in. Again,
That's
we're
good.
on
We'll do
air.
it back to you
That's
later.
good. That's good.
You guys
I'm
are
not
so great.
defensive. Why do you keep saying I'm defensive?
What are you talking
Stop
about?
writing me. So why I got this result is because I've done a ton of work. I actually have a client who teaches all about wealth and how we think about ourselves from a wealth perspective, etc. So I have an awareness and an understanding of my own shit. But I also was very honest about where I am in that journey. Like I still know that I don't think I'm worthy of money, right? But I'm aware of it,
Interesting.
right?
Yeah. So the places that you scored primarily, for you, Anthony, your primary was money vigilance. That was your primary money script. Okay, that had 2 true statements, and then you have a tie for secondary, and that is you have a little bit in money avoidance, a little bit in money status. That's the net worth is your self-worth. By the way, the official is money status. I totally blanked on that earlier. And then money worship. Okay. So that's not, I don't really really as concerned when it's 1 out of 3. Like, we could be super scientific, like, this is not significant at all. It's really your self-perception. If you perceive yourself as being a money vigilance person, then occasionally you might have a stitch where you're like, oh man, but you know what? I really do care about the amount of money I earn. And that might force your hand to make a business decision. Okay. Or if you're in a situation, maybe psychologically, maybe a little depressed mode, or like the quarter wasn't so great or whatever, and you're like, I hate money, right? It might backfire a little bit, and you might make a rash financial decision based on your psychology that is subconscious. So if the two of you are married, which obviously is not a match made in heaven, but you fight like brother and sister, so this is great. But if the two of you are married, this is just kind of fun for argument's sake. Like, and let's just say out of those 3, Stephanie, for you, this is self-report, this is self-assessment. But I mean, money vigilance, money avoidance, or money, what was it, my very first one here, money worship. What do you think? What do you think you tend to act out on of those 3 most of the time?
I would say, due to history and the things I'm aware of, that although I wouldn't call it worship, I would call it a constant striving,
Okay.
which is, I think, as much bound in story as it is in practicality, right? These
Sure.
heavy financial responsibilities and being the only earner and all that sort of thing.
So let's just pretend that if you guys were a married couple, someone that or a partner, someone with a money worship, and you, Anthony, as a money vigilance, that you'd rub each other really wrong. Okay. So this is where a lot of marriage therapists would come in and be like, you just need to communicate about it better. Well, communication will only get you so far. It's only the interaction. And quite honestly, when you're really vigilant about communication, you're not really speaking from a subconscious level. You're speaking from a conscious level. You're thinking about communicating. You're really, in a unnatural form. Okay. But when you're in the kitchen and you're making, light conversation about should we go to this, I bought these tickets to go, wait, what did you do? Or, I did this thing, and you have to explain it to your spouse. And all of a sudden it's subconscious reaction. A money vigilance and a money worship is probably the most polar opposite that I've seen. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it
Anthony,
does.
I have a question for you. How long do you think we would last if we were married? Like hours?
No, I'm an exceptionally loyal person. So if I decided to marry you, I would work heaven and earth in order to make it work. So you would have to leave me, which would probably a couple hours. But it wouldn't be coming from me.
I would divorce you because you're a doormat. That's why. Okay, I want to bring this back to founders because this is so important in so many of my clients. Like, the difference between them being successful financially in their business and not is almost 100% starting here, because and I will say that this is super interesting in the context of relationship, but I don't mean necessarily in the context of your spouse or your partner or what have you, because we are in relationship with peers. Mm-hmm. We're in relationship with community. Mm-hmm. We are in relationship with other business owners and our team. And so when there is when these two different archetypes show up, even in that context, it's the whole thing about when you surround yourself with people who are always striving or who are always, fearful, we're just not people that have money.
Yeah.
That is so easy to adopt.
Yep. So people, what you brought up is culture. It's culture of the business, and the founders really are in charge of leading that culture. Mm-hmm. So if they lead a culture of money avoidance, who are they going to attract into their business?
Mhm.
People that are money avoiders. Why? Because that's who
And
they're comfortable
customers.
hiring. And the
Yep.
people that they attract as customers, money avoiders.
Yep.
Man, they are hard to collect from. They're hard
Oh,
to pay the
yeah.
bill. They're hard to
Yep.
justify paying premium prices, even if they have it. So, there's a whole level of treating this level. And so I talk about that, I think in chapter 10 of the book. I talk about if your team is not on the same page and you're not going the same direction, that will slow you down from growing and scaling. It will slow the business down because those business leaders within your organization are going to procure that culture that can be very toxic. So you really have to get clear, both at work with your team and at home with your team. Those are the two areas, and I can't overemphasize this enough. I've done a lot of consulting on the business side, and I've done a lot of coaching on the marriage side. And when the two line up really well, people just know, like, we got the right people on the bus in the right seats. That's very much a good to great type of perspective. But they rarely. When's the last time you asked somebody, in an interview for a job, hey, what's your psychological relationship with money? It's like, tell me the last time you failed and how you picked yourself back up. All these.
What kind of animal are
Yeah,
you? What
right.
if you're an animal? So these are entrenched, values-driven
Yes.
pieces of us that are very, very hard to shift without some very conscious work. So when we have teams, whether it's a personal team or a business team, or founders who, if the first step is recognizing what your archetype is, how do we deal with that? Like, do you purposely surround yourself with the archetype that needs to pull you along to where you want to be? Do you do work as a team to address that money mindset? Like, what's the solution?
Oh, such a great question. So first off, I believe that words have such incredible power. So you're using archetype, and I'm not, like, Stephanie, you've done some great work here, and I'm just going to refer to it as script. If we can understand that these are psychological scripts, and essentially a script is just a program. It's something that we tell ourselves over and over again. Like, I don't deserve money. I didn't come for money. People are going to think of me differently if I have money. Like, those are things we tend to tell ourselves if we're money avoidant, or if we think money, again, it's kind of the money is evil idea. All right. Or money is bad. People who are rich are unrighteous, right? These things are in our mind. So we first have to understand, well, where did that come from? Where did it come from? And most of the time when I speak to business owners and we really boil this down and get to brass tacks, it comes from their parents. So if I was a medical doctor and you came in and you had something wrong and you wanted a diagnosis, a lot of times they're going to ask you about your genetics, right? They're going to say, did your mom or dad have this issue? What about your grandparents? Blah, blah, blah. Well, that's what I do with individuals, business owners. I say, hey, tell me about your mom. Tell me about your dad. How did they interact with money? And then I try to help them see, well, your mom was likely a money avoider, right? And your father had a money status script. And those scripts, then you probably adopted one or two or a little bit of the both. Or sometimes if you recognize it, you turn around and you have the opposite. Does that make sense? So some people are like, oh my gosh, my dad was such a money status guy. And now I'm very much money vigilant. Because a lot of times status people tend to blow their money and show their money and very flashy with it, right? But where money vigilant people are very secure and safe with that money. So they want to be kind of the opposite. So we look at what I call their money history. Where is your money history? We need to first identify it. Second, we want to then say, how do we let go of the past? Can you change what your parents brought to your family? Can you change how they taught you, what their experience was, what their examples were? Of course not. Of course not. But you can be okay with it and forgive. Think about this. Like, forgiveness is one of the most important virtues that exist known to man. You can wipe clean a slate. Somebody that's done you wrong for whatever reason. But I know grown adults who go around complaining about their parents, what their parents have done for them. or what they didn't do for them. And they're holding on to it for 40, 50, 60 plus years. Why not let it go? When you can let go of that negativity and that space in your subconscious mind, you now have space to reprogram your future. Now we can say we let go. Now we can reprogram it with neurolinguistic programming, with just simple reprogramming techniques like I believe money is this in my life. And anytime those subconscious limiting factors come up that want to make you think that money is evil or money is a status, you can reprogram it with some training. And quite honestly, the brain, the neurological pathways can actually be recreated. We found that in neuroscience. So it is something that has been proven to be able to do.
I think there's a piece there too around self-forgiveness, because I think
Well,
a
I
lot
just
of
want to
people...
say, sorry, Steph, really quick. I just feel compelled after what Dr. Travis said to tell my dad that I love him. So I just wanted to say that out loud. There's a little bit of it. I forgive you, Dad. I love you. I feel so much better now. Thank you very much, Travis.
Are you going to cry? Because that's embarrassing.
I got a little bit. I got a little.
So I think and I believe that a lot of people actually use money to punish themselves, to recreate something that they feel responsible for, and they shouldn't have the good thing because they are punishing themselves, right?
I thought you were going a whole different direction there, Steph. I'm like, please don't go there. All right, keep going.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I agree. And if you have been dealing with mistakes, like I've made financial mistakes, like raise your hand. Anybody in here made a financial mistake in their life? Of course. But those resilient people, like the study of resilience is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
People can go through horrible abuse, horrible neglect, really bad situations, war, and they forgive people or they forgive themselves for carrying these burdens for a long time. And again, forgiveness is letting go of a burden. It's literally letting go. And there's just example after example that we don't have time to talk about of so many people who have showed us this. And once you're able to do that, you do feel more psychologically free. And you have space to say, okay, what do I want in my future? How do I want to create this? Once you figure out that, yes, I want to have an abundance mindset. I want to have a stewardship mindset. And you can reprogram your brain there. Then both the spouses can say, okay, this is where we want to go. So now let's make a goal. Let's make some plans. Let's try and change together so that we can come closer financially. My research at a PhD level, anybody that's ever done a PhD, you're basically taking a tiny grain of salt, you're going to the highest mountain, and you're dropping an itty little tiny piece of grain of salt or sand at the top. Bink. That's really all I did. I studied geniuses, like incredible people who have compiled data about marriage. And what I found is that when couples are on the same page financially, they are more successful financially. And interestingly enough, when they are, it also helps them to feel psychologically better. They have higher well-being scores, and they tend to like their partner more. So it has a psychological effect, it has a marital effect, and it has a financial outcome that all people, quite honestly, desire.
Oh, all right. So we've hit that time here where we're ready. We're gonna go ahead and transition into the speed round. Dr. Travis Parry, are you ready for the speed round? It's meant to instill panic, so that was good. All right, question one: track cash flow daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly?
Is this at a founder's level, or is this at a?
I'm gonna throw it back at you. Okay, what's your gut right out the gate?
Yeah, I'm gonna say weekly at a relational level, and at least monthly on a business level.
Okay, so another financial question related to customer acquisition. Do you focus on customer acquisition cost or lifetime value when talking about cash and financial
Yeah, lifetime value. You have to think long term, or the short term is that short term thing is going to eat you up.
Invest in growth metrics or survival metrics first?
Great question. I don't like that question. I don't like that at all. I think you do both. Like, yeah, I know you guys are going to push me on. Well, if you get all that one, I think
Both is usually a common answer for these questions.
Yeah,
So both
yeah.
is fine. So
Both.
a little bit in both.
Yeah.
Okay. Hire CFO first or learn financial management yourself?
I think you get good with your psychological relationship with money, and you hire a CFO as quickly as possible, because I'm all about getting out of your own way, get out of your own business so that you can be the founder and the driver of the business. If you're not the CFO and that's like not your business, get out of it as quickly as possible, but be really careful who you hire.
Exactly right. All right. Involve your team or spouse with the chaos of cash flow management, or protect them from the anxiety.
No, you involve them on a personal level for sure, 100%. But because I've seen this destroy marriages where they're not sure what's going on. So if they don't know what's going on and they're out spending frivolously or whatever, they're adding to your own chaos, right? So you need to include them. It doesn't mean they need to know everything, every detail, every decision about the business, though. I'm a big believer in, if they're not involved in the business, like active, they don't need to know all of that, because that's not their specialty, and they may actually second guess what you're doing, and they might actually pull you down for making good decisions.
Interesting. All right. Stephanie, tell us what you learned with the Founding Fundamentals.
I learned that you and I probably will never marry. But I think we might have known that already.
Yeah, I think we do that.
It'd be like a reality show. Kind of like Lost or something.
Financially lost.
Financially
Dazed and confused.
All right. Here's what I took away. I mean, there was a ton of great stuff in here. This is something I could talk about for hours, but the psychological side of financials and how that permeates relationships is actually, like, inside and outside of business, is actually like such a pivotal and important thing to understand as a business owner, as a partner of a business owner. There's 4 types of relationships that we have with money. Money is evil, money worship, money is status, and abundance. The last one being by far the least common. It's really important to diagnose when we have a problematic relationship with money, because the symptoms could very well be something that we think is just financial management, but it's actually being driven by the story that we have. Start with your money history, then figure out how you're going to use forgiveness to get past that, and then get aligned on a plan, either with your team or your spouse, to together figure out where you both want to be and how you're going to individually move towards that, and then as a team. And finally, 2 people can have the same money archetype. We didn't really talk about this, but it sort of occurred to me. 2 people can have the same money archetype, but behave differently, sort of in the same way that we have different attachment styles, but our behavior, we might have the same attachment style, but our behavior looks a little bit different. So I think that that's also important, because it's just one part of the story.
Yeah.
I'll mention some deep dive resources here. Financial Intelligence by Karen Berman and Joe Knight. Obviously, The Lean Startup is a great little book for founders to talk about how to run their business lean, by Eric Rice. And Travis, why don't you again tell us one more time about your book and where we can learn more about you?
Yeah. And really quick, to piggyback off that, we didn't talk about the behaviors, but yes, you could be on the same page or on a different page, but you still need to track where the money is outflowing together as a couple, so that you can, work together. The behaviors are super important. And I talk about that in my book, Marry and Grow Rich, which you can pick up Amazon, Audible if you want. You can also go to my website, marryandgrowrichbook.com. You can get that cheaper. You can get the download plus the Audible version. They're right on the website for $5. So pretty simple. Love to have you check that out and take the assessments yourself. There are 4 others in there, and there's a whole section on how to grow your business while you're able to be on the same page and team with your team at work.
Awesome. Thank you. Stephanie, go ahead and close us out.
All right. Thanks so much for listening. Please make sure to visit us at howtofounder.com, where you can connect with us on LinkedIn and subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify channels. Leave us a review if you've enjoyed or you really didn't enjoy this episode. And remember, you are the pioneer of economic prosperity. We're so grateful for you being here with us and with you along the way.
Thanks, everybody.